After spending a few days in Moscow, I traveled to Saint Petersburg on a sleeper train with some friends. Saint Petersburg, the former Leningrad, named by Tsar Pyotr Alexeyevich, or Peter the Great, who established the city and named it not after himself, but after Saint Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, which is obviously a lot less narcissistic. We arrived at Moskovskaya station and the city gave me a very warm welcome by sending a strong and temperature-cooling rain shower down onto my head, which I absolutely loved, especially after the dry heat of Moscow. Just like in Moscow, I made the wise choice of booking an accommodation in the suburbs, where I immediately took a stroll despite the rain. Saint Petersburg was created at the eastern end of the Gulf of Finland, an area that the Russians conquered from Swedish colonialists in the early 18th century, wishing to gain better access to the sea. The region was mostly inhabited by ethnic Ingrians at the time, a subgroup of the Finnish peoples that migrated there while the area was administered by the Swedish Empire. For just over 200 years, during times of the Tsardom of Russia and the Russian Empire, Saint Petersburg acted as the Russian capital, which has shaped the city like nothing else. Today, it is arguably Russia's most important tourist destination. The next day, I immediately left Saint Petersburg for the day with my friends as we were headed for the Yakatsurinski Dvarietz, Katherine Palace, the summer residence of Russian Tsars dedicated to Tsar Pyotr Alexeyevich's wife, Yekaterina I. It is located in the satellite settlement of Pushkin, about 30 to 45 minutes south of downtown St. Petersburg. To get there, I took a public train, which involves a longer walk from Pushkin station to the palace, but it wasn't crowded at all. St. Petersburg is known for its palaces and surrounded by a large number of smaller nearby settlements that boast one or more enormous palaces. As you can imagine, St. Petersburg is arguably the most important location with regards to Russian royalty, with the palaces drawing tourists from all over the world into the area. Pushkin alone is home to 2 palaces, the other one being the Alexander Palace right next to the Catherine Palace. Other famous Russian palaces can be found in nearby Gatchina and Petergov, as well as downtown St. Petersburg. The Catherine Palace might be one of the more well-known residences in the region, crowded with tons of travelers during my stay. Many of the palaces in the area have a distinct bluish facade color, including smaller buildings that are part of the palace grounds. Visiting Russia long required an embassy-issued visa for Western travelers. However, citizens from many countries were able to visit St. Petersburg without having to acquire a visa if certain criteria are met. Today, Western European citizens can get an online visa, which is a lot easier to get. Overall, Russia's visa policies are very visitor-friendly, allowing people from many countries to enter visa-free or with an online visa. US and UK citizens do need a visa, however, as the Russian Federation strictly adheres to the principle of reciprocity. If a country does not grant Russian citizens visa-free entry, then Russia won't grant travelers from those nations visa-free entry either. The Schengen area recently established online visas as an easier way for Russian citizens to enter, which is why the Russian Federation returned the favor. More than the palaces themselves, I especially enjoyed the vast tranquil gardens and parks on the property, which feature many lakes and are home to ducks and other animals. Due to its northern location, being just a little further south than Helsinki and a little further north than Stockholm, St. Petersburg features a colder climate than Moscow. On the way back to the city, we took the bus this time. If there is no reason why you can't do the 20 to 30 minute walk between Pushkin station and the palace, I highly recommend taking the train to and from Pushkin, as it is much more comfortable and far emptier. Back in the city, I immediately drowned in masses of tourists on my walk back to my accommodation. Just like with Moscow, I wish I had visited during a colder season, but even apart from that, it was that day when I noticed most that I clearly liked Moscow more than St. Petersburg. I remember a relative of mine referring to the city as the Venice of the East, which, given St. Petersburg's proximity to the sea and many canals, is very accurate, although I would also like to point out that Venice too is visited by way too many tourists each year. However, I've been to Venice twice in my life and can say that St. Petersburg is at least a lot cleaner and feels slightly less crowded. The next day, I woke up early to visit the Ermitage, the world-famous art museum located inside the Winter Palace and the second largest of its kind after the Louvre. Even early in the morning, the lines were rather long and the place felt crowded, but the interior design was truly breathtaking. It is quite amazing what humans are capable of with regards to creating beauty. It saddens me, however, that such beauty is often created for monarchs and other members of any society's elite. Especially the luxurious furniture reminds me of how strange classism is. St. Petersburg was largely built by conscripted peasants and prisoners of war, all at the whims of the ruling monarchs. Even today, classism is a problem that faces humanity all over the world. Today, it is not primarily the monarchs anymore that rule the world and make the working classes suffer, but rather big businesses. A friend of mine once said that from his point of view, a lot of the bad things that happened to humanity throughout early history were unavoidable, especially due to natural phenomena that humans weren't yet able to properly deal with or overcome. But at a certain point, this changed, and nowadays, since a few hundred years ago, most of humanity's suffering has been the result of the actions of the greedy humans in power. That being said, the Ermitage, which is now open for the public to bear witness to the beauty of the centuries and does not house any royal mooches anymore, is a breathtakingly beautiful place to visit, its only problem being the high number of visitors. Maybe this would also be less of a problem during a colder season when fewer tourists flock into the city. Overall, visiting St. Petersburg was a very interesting experience, although the city is overall not my cup of tea, the main reason being the degree to which it caters more to mass tourism than Moscow. I might be a little unfair with my judgment, however, as I personally have a tendency to like the first destination on a trip the most, wherever I go, so I might glorify Moscow more because of that. The second reason why other cities in Russia probably speak to me more is because St. Petersburg is largely defined by royal history, which has resulted in the existence of beautiful palace architecture, but little more. The suburbs of St. Petersburg were, however, just as interesting as those in Moscow, and walking through the rainy, empty streets on my first evening was definitely something to remember. Although a little less impressive than those of Moscow, I also really enjoyed the city's metro, tram, and trolleybus systems. I left St. Petersburg in the middle of the night and flew home with Air Baltic, which involved an overlay of several hours in Riga, the capital of the Republic of Latvia. I took a tiny little bit of footage there too, which I might publish sometime as well. Spasiba for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this admittedly very critical and tough assessment of Saint Petersburg, a city that I hope I'm not misjudging with this. Do svidaniya.